On this episode of the Subtle Foodie Podcast, we're going to be talking to Chef Austin Simmons from Tris in the Woodlands, The Kitchen, and Black Walnut as well. And with me is Frank.
Hi, I'm Frank Lee, and I'm here to welcome our sponsors, Fajita Pete's in the Woodlands and Euro World Motorsports.
So join us today for the first inaugural, well, I guess first and inaugural is the same, but the inaugural Subtle Foodie Podcast with Chef Austin Simmons.
We're very excited to be here.
Very excited. Well, welcome to the inaugural episode of the Subtle Foodie Podcast. We're going to try this and see how it works. This is something a little new that we're doing. We've done a few things before. I'm here with my buddy Frank.
Hi, Anthony.
Hey,
thanks for having me.
So you've seen him on the Taste Buds videos. We're also joined for this inaugural episode by Chef Austin Simmons. You've seen him on a Taste Buds episode. I'm sure you've seen him around the Woodlands as well. So this is a little different. This is a little long format. We're trying this out for a podcast, and we're going to see how it works.
It's my first podcast of any kind.
To be fair, I have been on podcasts, and I know, Austin, you have too. I have never.
I've only watched them.
There you go. There you go. So obviously a lot of experience in the room here. So we're going to see how this works. But, we're going to do this in standard kind of podcast format. We're going to have a little discussion. It's not going to be just about the restaurants, right? It's going to be about the industry. It's going to be about the trends. We're going to see what's going on by experts in the community. So Austin's here as a chef and a restaurateur and a dishwasher. But we'll have people, we've got people lined up from restaurant real estate, social media, other restaurateurs that are like multi-unit, one-off kind of owners, and really industry people. So this is meant to be a discussion of the industry, not just a review of a restaurant, like we've done before. So,
well, I know that as a consumer, because that's primarily what I do here. Is as a consumer, I give my outsider opinion on how things seem to someone who doesn't do this for a living, but I sure enjoy it. I know I've always enjoyed conversations with the chef, with the restaurant manager, and the challenges they deal with, because from an outsider's perspective, I personally believe that a restaurant is probably the single hardest business to make a living in.
Right.
Chef, what would you say that would make me wrong?
That the restaurant business is the biggest business in the world, and if you put them all together, there is no bigger business.
Really?
Yeah. I think it can be extremely difficult to operate restaurants if it's not what you've done for a lot of years, if you don't have good experience. It's definitely an on-the-job training type of profession. You can go to culinary school and learn the fundamentals of cooking, but because I make a beurre blanc sauce this way in Le Cordon Bleu French Culinary School, and then I got to serve it to 200 people over a 6-hour period, we're probably not making that beurre blanc sauce the same way.
Right.
So, I think I would agree that you see that it seems like it's a very hard industry, but if you put all the restaurants in the world together and made one business, because that's what it is. I mean, you talk about oil energy, there is no bigger business.
Yeah.
And
everybody's got to eat.
Everybody eats, and it's on every corner, and there's multiple brands on every corner, and there's a lot of extremely wealthy people in the restaurant business.
Of course.
But yeah, it is difficult, and I think we're seeing the most difficult time right now in the restaurant industry because of staffing. And if you
see, to me, that's always seemed the biggest challenge is the personnel aspect,
the labor,
because it's such except for the manager and the head chef, almost everybody else in the restaurant seems to be a transitory job for them.
Yeah, it's not that way around the world, though. It can be that way here in the States, but when you go to Europe, I mean, I stashed in France and Switzerland, Japan, Singapore. I mean, I was really fortunate to go to a lot of places in those countries. I mean, career server is a career server. It is a prized job. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you become a captain at a 2-star Michelin or a 3-star Michelin, you are put on a pedestal like a rock star over there.
Wow.
I mean, it is a big deal to be a wait captain in a 2 or 3 star Michelin. And that is a longevity job, and quite frankly, those people make really good money. Really good money.
I mean, I've
Well,
heard about the money they make, but I see how hard they work.
For sure.
I mean, I waited tables at a few different places and worked behind a bar throughout college. And in every aspect, and every time I took the job, I was there for 2-3 months, and they'd ask me if I was interested in management training. And I just said no. And I was like, why not? Like, I see how hard you work, and I don't want to work that hard.
Yeah.
It seems really hard to me.
It is, but I think the one cool thing about the restaurant industry is if you have a good work ethic and you're willing to sacrifice for the years it takes to be good at it, once you get up in the upper management, it's like any other company. I mean, I look at these CEOs. I'm fortunate to be mentored by a few, and I one of the guys, the CEO, really good friend of mine or one of the presidents of ExxonMobil, he's got 3 cell phones. He never gets off it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
He's a 24/7 job.
I may physically put in a good amount of hours on my feet, but he doesn't sleep. And he's talking to China, India, Canada. I mean, he's constantly, that's pretty hard work too.
Yeah.
So I think it's like anything. We overcomplicate the restaurant business.
Definitely.
We overcomplicate when we look at it, when we operate it. We overcomplicate it because it's hospitality takes humanity. It takes people.
Right.
And it takes ultimate management of people. We are an industry that is not modernized by computers.
No.
There is a lot more modernization of technology in our industry now, and it is the way of the future in a lot of ways. But you'll never get rid of the hospitality and people.
No.
And so you have to be able to manage. There's robots that will make French fries right now, but
That's awesome.
they can't.
Robot French fries.
That's
Based
a real
out of
thing.
steak,
Yeah.
Really?
So
Yeah.
I thought that was just an animation piece, but that's a real thing.
There's a lot of issues. So part of this, what we're going to do with this podcast, right, is try to cover some of those issues, not just cover the guest, because the guest is going to be the expert. Let's talk a little bit about our sponsors. We actually have sponsors now, but we actually have 2 sponsors, but we've got one who is
Frank Lee with Euro World Motorsports.
there you go, the premier high-end.
Yes, we're a performance shop focusing on Porsches, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and AMGs, and even BMWs. But our primary focus is to equip people's cars for the track day experience that they use to become better drivers.
awesome.
Even you've worked on my Audi, and you've threatened to work on my Jeep and things like that.
Well, I bring a Porsche to the equation. We'll go for it from there.
Well, we're not going to hold the Porsche against you.
But, I purchased the Audi from you.
You did.
And that's been
You did. That
few
was
years
really
now.
weird. That was really weird.
And my kid still has that car. And we've done
That was a great little car.
fixes and updates. And for Christmas, he's getting a set of wheels. And he loves that car.
That's a great car.
He doesn't even want another car.
Yeah. It was definitely a great car. And then our other sponsor is me.
Fajita Pete's.
From Fajita Pete's in the Woodlands. So I
eat there. It's really,
actually
really good.
do own Fajita Pete's in the Woodlands, and we're actually getting ready to open another one in Conroe by the end of this month. Which is, you talk about labor issues right now. That's what's going on.
Do people in Conroe not want to work at Fajita Pete's?
Nobody wants to work anywhere right now. Seems to be the case. But so Fajita Pete's, so takeout, catering, and delivery of scratch-made fajitas.
What's the challenge in getting people to come work in restaurants? Because even when I was in college, the money I made just part-timing as a waiter was way better than anything you got from the government.
Yeah. First off, honored to be here with you guys.
Oh.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll get to you in a little bit.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm Chef Austin Simmons. I operate Tris, the kitchen, and I'm the chef of Black Walnut Cafe as well. So we encompass all those concepts under our restaurant company, Hubble and Hudson Management, which we're changing that name this year, by the way.
Good.
I'm very, very proud of that.
I'm very glad that that's changing
Nobody
for
can
various
spell
reasons.
it, and it has no meaning to our concept. So we're very excited to blow that name up this year. Not sure what the new name is yet.
Okay.
I have some suggestions, but
So I'm honored to be here. Definitely spent a lot of time here in the Woodlands. I started my career in Dallas, the Mansion on Turtle Creek. I went to Le Cordon Bleu Culinary School, and I've been in the Woodlands as a chef since, it's coming up on 13 years.
No,
now.
wait a second. You skipped a whole bunch there. So you were at Dallas at the Mansion in Turtle Creek, right?
Yes, sir.
And that was your first big gig.
Never worked in a restaurant before in my life.
So of course, never worked in a restaurant before. Doesn't go through the normal process.
Because that was mainly my next
Yeah. question.
question. Like, okay, how do you? Well, because I was exposed to it in high school and college and summer jobs and what have you, from a teenager almost. But it never interested me as a career because it just seemed so difficult.
I started working at 15, mowing the baseball and soccer fields that I played on. And then I did that. I actually worked for a place called Rawlings. It was in the ballpark in Arlington. It was a restaurant at the top, Texas Ranger Stadium, but I was turning the baseball bats. I was on a lay, and I would engrave your company logo into the bat. And
Rawlings, the sports
no, it was a
equipment
restaurant.
company.
But we had a booth up front that we made special baseball bats.
Oh,
for
that's
the
hilarious.
customers. Yeah, and
Wow.
I never did any of the restaurant work.
So your first job in a restaurant had nothing to do with actually being in a restaurant.
Nothing to do with actually
Got
being
It was
in a
engraving baseball
Got
bats.
it. You were making commemorative bats.
restaurant. Correct.
I would have never guessed that would even be a job in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Engraving bats.
I mean, long story short, I'll try to make it short. I was undirectioned in high school. I didn't really know what I was going to do, where I was going to go. I'd always worked. My dad's like, "Hey, where are you going to college?" And I'm like, "I'm not going to college." He's like, "Yeah, you're going to college." And I'm like, "No, I'm going to keep working." He's like, "No, you need to come back down here in 3 weeks, and tell me." My parents were split. And my stepmom and my dad are like, you need to tell us what you're doing. We need to sign it up. So I went back home to my mom's, and I'd always watched Emerald Live and Great Chefs, Great Cities. When Emerald Live came out, it may sound cliche, but I just loved the energy that guy had with cooking.
Oh, yeah.
It was just so infectious.
He creates excitement in that.
And I was just stuck on that show. I cooked a lot as a kid. My stepmom's a really talented cook, and my mom is a home cook that cooked, meals on Sundays for the week. So I enjoyed it. I went back down to I saw Le Cordon Bleu on TV. I went back down to my dad's house and I said, "Hey, I'm going to go to Le Cordon Bleu." And he said, "You want to be a cook?" And I said, "No, I kind of like to be a chef." But,
But he didn't see that as a...
No, he wasn't happy at all.
But this was the Cordon Bleu in Austin, right?
It was.
Yeah.
It's still a real school.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a real expensive school. now that I look at it, 15 months is insanity. But I went down there, and I was a C student in school. I was super ADD. I couldn't focus. My classwork was always not great. And the same held true in culinary school. In culinary school at the Cordon Bleu, we did 6 weeks of lab and 6 weeks of classwork. I was a C student in classwork. I was in the top 2% in lab work.
Oh, wow.
Always
Yeah.
through the whole program. If you show me something, I have a photographic memory if I'm interested in it, which is the key for someone who's ADD.
That's the key.
I'll never forget it.
No, same here.
So I think I fell in love with it because of that. And then I fell in love with the romanticism of the restaurant business, just being able to create something and cook for somebody and change their day at that moment.
I think that's why everybody gets into the restaurant business, because they have this romantic notion of that.
Oh.
But you can get into it for a number. I'm not a cook. I opened a restaurant. I'm not a chef. But I opened it as a business because, that, but I still had this romantic notion from spending so much time around chefs and restaurants and kitchens that, hey, this was kind of a cool thing to do, which it is. But I think that's why a lot of people get into it.
It is, for sure. I never worked in the restaurant business before in my life. I needed an externship. Part of culinary school is you have to spend 3 months on a working restaurant to graduate.
Okay.
And the saucier came to our school and spoke. His name's Dave. And he really changed my life. He was there speaking about the industry and what it had done for him, and he graduated from Le Cordon Bleu, and he was speaking to our Garde Manger class, which was our last lab. He said, "Hey, we take some externships at the Mansion sometime." I grew up in Arlington, never heard of the Mansion on Turtle Creek. I never heard of it, and the internet was just starting to become a big deal in 2000. Well, not even really a big deal in 2005. So I Google the Mansion on Turtle Creek. I see it. I find the address, and I drive up on Friday, and I valet my car in the front of this 5-star 5-diamond hotel, and I walked up to the front desk. I said, I'm here to apply for an externship. I'm looking for Dave. And they said, where did you park? And I said, well, I valet. And they said, no, you need to drive around back. You need to drive,
There's another entrance.
you need to drive around back and wait through security and ask for the chef. So I did, and Dave came out, gave me a tour, and they basically told me I had no restaurant experience. I needed to start somewhere else.
But Cordon Bleu,
Didn't matter.
really?
Didn't matter. 'Cause you don't start at the highest end hotel restaurant in the state
yeah.
when you've never even peeled carrots.
But the story gets better.
Wow, Cordon
So-
Bleu meant nothing to them.
Yeah, nothing. Well, it's not that it meant nothing to them. I just had no fundamental experience in the restaurant. Like I said, culinary school is great, but it doesn't necessarily apply 100% to what you're going to see in a high-volume restaurant or a decent volume restaurant.
So when he came to speak to your class, you didn't have like a direct connection with him to say, "Hey, come on down. I'd like you to have a shot at this."
No, it didn't go that way. So I drove back home to culinary school in Austin, and the next Friday I got in my truck and drove right back. I didn't tell them I was coming. I went to security and I said, I'm here to see the chef. I don't remember the second Friday. I think I waited an hour and a half or something, and they came out, and executive sous chef comes out. His name's Eric Brandt, and he gives me a tour. I'll never forget it. And he gives me the tour of the kitchen. I'm like, yeah, I've kind of already seen this. I just really like to do my externship here. And he said, this is just really not the level you start at. We appreciate you coming. But come back and see us when you've got a couple of, months of experience in a, maybe a lower end kitchen.
Go work at a Denny's, an IHOP, something like that.
I think it was Chili's, to be
Chili's?
honest. I don't really remember exactly. It's like,
Do they do a lot of French food at Chili's?
Yeah, you need to
French fries.
You need to go get the basics down first before we're going to deal with you. So I drove back to Austin. Next Friday, drove right back.
You went back a third time.
And the chef de cuisine came out. And it was like I think it was another 2 hours I waited on him. He came out. He didn't even give me a tour of the kitchen. He said, look,
We're sick of looking at you.
this is just really not, his name was Ian. He said, this is really not where you start. We really appreciate your persistence, but we're sorry.
Oh, so he was well aware of it being your third time as well.
Well, he knew I'd been there before.
I think his picture was on the wall.
Yeah. They were like, this guy is crazy. And now let me back up just a quick second. During culinary school, my dad was in the trucking business, best friend in the trucking business. His best friend got me a job at Oak Farms Dairy.
Oh.
I was delivering milk on a milk truck during culinary school. I was making $17 an hour. I was working 4 days a week.
$70 an hour.
That's good money.
This is in
Especially 20 years
2006.
ago. Wow, that's good money back then.
And so I was killing it. I was working 4 days a week. I had plenty of money. So he tells me no. I drive back to Austin. I drive back the next Friday. Executive sous chef comes out after 3 hours. He's like, you're not going to go away, are you? I'm like, no, I really want to work here. And he said, okay, we'll give you an externship here. I'm like, okay. And he says, we'll pay you $7.45. I said, an hour?
But the fourth
time.
And so you waited an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, and 3 hours.
Yeah. The good news for me is my mom lived in Arlington, so I just stayed the weekend with her. It wasn't like I was driving to some foreign place. I actually would come up and see Mom. But yeah, I was persistent. I'd never been told no before. Unfortunately, my mom never told me no, so I wasn't used to it. And he said, we'll pay you $7.45 an hour. I made $7.45 an hour. I moved back in with my mom, and my mom got a second job to help me afford gas to get to Dallas and back every day for me to essentially do a 2-year stint there as an externship, if you will.
2 years externship at $7 an hour.
$7.45. No, I got a raise to $12 an hour after a year and like 9 months.
And even then, that was a minimum wage job at back in 2006. $7.75 was.
Yeah, it was.
Sure.
And I was driving 45 minutes one way.
Jesus.
So
Love.
But the experience.
But the Manchester Turtle Creek at that time, Dean Faring was leaving. I got to see 3 months of him, and John Tezar was coming in to take over. And they basically gave him a blank check to remodel the place, change the cuisine. They had lost the 5th star. They had lost the 5th diamond.
Whoa.
And they wanted to get back to that status quickly. And they knew they needed to revamp the way they were doing things.
So you were there for that massive revamp.
I was there for all of it. I was there for the remodel of the restaurant, then the remodel, and then opening the 22-seat chef's room, which most people, they didn't even know about. We had 22 seats, 3 different tasting menus, a chef's seafood and a vegetarian, and a salon. So you'd come in and have a trio canapes, 3 bites of like 16 different things and your selection of champagne while you picked your menu. Then we'd take you to your table, and then you'd have 7 courses of what menu you picked.
This is making me hungry, and I noticed that Austin didn't bring any food with him when he came here to visit us.
Our restaurants are right down the street. They're open and ready for you.
I guess we're having a late lunch today.
And the food that we were doing in that room was way ahead of its time. Matter of fact, hands down, the best food in Texas at the time. And I would say if we did that project again under Tizar, it'd be hard to beat it. The playground that he had, the access to ingredients and money that we had, I mean, I don't think it made a dime. We were just trying to cook the best food with the best ingredients across the world, and Tizar really shined in that restaurant. It was unbelievable. When I look back on it, that's how I learned to cook, and I'm so damn thankful that it was, because yes, I've had to learn a lot of different ways to cook food over the years, and a lot of different ways to make money with food, and a lot of different, but just the foundational cooking in that restaurant was. It's
something else.
It's lost in a lot of the cuisine today in the United States.
So you're talking about John Tizar, right? And now he's I don't know. Do we call him a celebrity chef? What do we call him?
Oh yeah, he for sure is.
He's all around. He's all around. But right now, Knife in Dallas is his place, and he's got
he's got Knife
Burger.
He's got Knife and Spoon in Orlando, which is his big new project, and then he's opening Knife and Spoon at a Marriott in California.
Nice.
And I think he's coming to Austin.
Nice.
And he's going to do a Knife in Austin.
Nice.
As a matter of fact.
So I ate there, thanks to you, when I was in Dallas. And I've never been, the food was so good, and he was so nice. He came out and sat with me, and we talked, because it was just me, and I was up there for other work, and he kept feeding me, and I said to him, I said, please, stop bringing food. I can't physically eat anymore. I was so uncomfortable the next day, but the food was so darn good that you couldn't pass it up. I mean, between the pastas and the meats and everything else. But so John was at the mansion, but then came down here. That's how you got down here.
That's how I got down here. He opened Tizar's Modern Seafood and Steak in the Woodlands. It was open for 11 months, essentially. And then it was just an undercapitalized project in a bad location, really, honestly.
It was at the Waterway?
It was right there under Fidelity, next to where Blend Bar is now, across from the pavilion.
And at that time, that was what, 2008?
2008.
Yeah. The Waterway, that whole area hadn't experienced like the growth.
Well, we were going through the oil downturn, and we were trying to run a fine dining restaurant. I mean, it just wasn't the right time, the right space, and it was undercapitalized for sure. If we could have made it the first year, 2 years, we'd have been fine. I mean, we were busy, and we put out great food.
Yeah.
So I got down here to do that project with him, and then ended up needing to stay after he left and went to New York. And I really have never been crazy about going to New York. I like to hunt, fish, play golf, and drive my F-150. I just don't know what I would do in Manhattan. So, I stayed, and we had a trade with Hubble and Hudson grocery store at the time, and I would go down and buy stuff for the guys because we'd given them a piece of equipment.
Yeah.
They ended up needing a sous chef and ended up getting hired there. Was the sous chef, then the executive sous chef in about a year and a half, and then I got the opportunity to be the executive chef at 24 there.
Now pardon me, I'd like to go back one step. My background is a financier. I'm a portfolio manager by trade. So you made an important statement there, and it's something I've witnessed in the restaurant industry. Undercapitalization. What would you define as necessary capital to open a fine dining restaurant in the Woodlands?
It's always going to depend on the space.
Okay.
First and foremost, in the restaurant business, it's about space and rent structure. And everyone's different. So if you go into a existing space that maybe operated as a restaurant before, and you can utilize some of the bones of that, obviously it's going to take less capital investment to open that spot. Can you kind of make some of that stuff work? Restaurant equipment's expensive. I mean, you can spend $100,000 on a kitchen, or you can spend $500,000 on a kitchen. You can spend more than that if you really want to get silly with your equipment. So the space matters, and what can you use in the kitchen, and then what kind of ambiance do you have to change? If you have a shell and or you're going to build it from the ground up. I mean, you're going to be a couple million for sure.
Because that was my next question is, all right, so what time frame do you need to be capitalized for before you have to make that first profit? What is the most, I don't know, I guess there's a minimum, it's a maximum. What's the industry standard?
I think you need, from my experience, this is my opinion, I think you need 1 year's worth of operating capital, and you need to go into the project out of debt. So if you tell me you want to invest in a restaurant and we're going to go, because the one good thing about the industry and a lot of industries is that you get on terms with a lot of these vendors, right? So our problem when I said we were undercapitalized, we put all the smallwares in the restaurant, which is all the pots, pans, containers, the kitchen, not the kitchen equipment per se, but all the things that we need in the restaurant to operate. Then we bought all of our initial alcohol inventory, and if you have a good bar, you're talking about $100,000. Mm-hmm. I mean, easy, and if you want to have a good wine program, there's another 60, right? And beer's kind of becoming obsolete, so you don't have to, you could get into it real easy. But let's say we got $150,000 in alcohol inventory, plus we spent $150,000 in smallwares to get the restaurant open. Okay, that's $300,000 right now that's on term. So you got 60 days. Sometimes when you open a restaurant, they'll give you 90 days. So we've got all that leased out. We haven't paid for it, right? So now we got to bring in the food inventory. Okay, now we got to bring all that in, and when we got to go through the opening of trialing dishes and making sure that they're right and giving out
plus marketing,
free samples,
and making sure that people are liking what we're doing. Oh, but all the smallwares bills are starting to come in. Oh, all of our food bills are starting to come in, and it all snowballs and hits you at one time. Yeah. And you can't operate like that. So you need all that initial investment
to cover those operating expenses up front.
Right? And you're paying that back, and then you need that initial inventory. Plus, you need to be able to lose money. If you're making money in the restaurant business after 6 months, you did everything right.
Okay, that's a big question, and I've seen some really decent small restaurants further out in the suburbs that were shockingly good and well done. And then they're closed in 3 months or 6 months. And like, what happened? He said, I only had 3 months of operating capital.
Right.
Like, well, hold on.
And they're probably paying a lot of those back bills. There's a lot of businesses you can get in that you don't need that kind of operating capital up front, but the restaurant business has a lot of overhead. You have a good amount of inventory. So that's why a lot of restaurants fail. They can't make it that first year. And then they don't operate correctly, right? I mean, you still have to operate to bring guests back.
Well, you get inexperienced operators, like you were saying. It's an on-the-job training kind of thing. I've gone through this myself. Thought I could know all these things from talking to people, but I've learned so much over a year of being open that it's completely changed.
None of it was in the brochures.
None of it was in the brochures, and your operating is, you're operating on razor margins on food, and then labor is such a big issue. But the labor issue right now is not going away anytime soon. It's hard positions to fill. You have minimum wage at a certain rate, but people are expecting so much higher, and then you get oddball stuff like McDonald's paying $20 an hour.
Whoa.
And like sign-on bonuses to get people in. That's how they're trying to get labor, back into the market, and it's difficult.
Well, Austin, you're spouting some serious wisdom here today, and everything you've said is an hour-long talking point. But one point I just want to learn a little bit about. I'm not much of a drinker, but you made a comment. Beer is obsolete.
Yeah, I was gonna. I think I know a few people who might
talk to you.
Be upset about you.
I'm not a drinker, so I don't even understand what that means.
We operate a couple of restaurants that we have a big craft beer selection at the kitchen. I'm a big craft beer drinker myself. I love it. I was at B52 last weekend. Just absolutely love that place, by the way, at Conroe. If you haven't been there, it's amazing beer. But you're seeing a huge shift in the market with beer right now. You're watching seltzer take over in a lot of that category.
Hard seltzer, aka what we knew in the '90s as Zima.
Oh, yeah. It's now rebranded as White Claw.
Hey,
watch it. You want to stay lean and trim, better get on that seltzer. But you're seeing craft cocktail and liquor just explode.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, if I look at our beer sales today in a restaurant where we have 6 taps, a whole wall of craft beer, versus those sales 2 years ago, it's drastically different.
In 2 years.
In 2 years. I mean, like, it's not even we're having a hard time even making money with beer.
So you're talking about a wholesale cultural change within the restaurant
Completely
industry.
has shifted.
And that's customer driven, I guess.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that beer is obsolete in the sense that that there's nobody drinking it anymore. Obviously, there are people drinking it, but the market has shifted drastically. And so when you talk about a liquor, beer, wine program, beer is not even a factor in our restaurants of
Not
what's
even a
selling
factor.
and what's killing it.
But I think it's a little different. And one of the people that I want to have a conversation with this about is Mary Thorne at Thistle Draft Shop on 2920. They have a fantastic
And she's
craft
awesome.
beer selection, and she is awesome. She's running that place great. Chef David Ducart is the chef there now, and the food is fantastic.
That's
too.
some of the best truffle fries you're going to find.
Yeah, and
we do a pretty good truffle fry at our concept, but I'm telling you, the truffle fries are legit. But that is a destination for beer.
that's a destination for craft beer. Yeah,
It's just a little bit different in the rest of the market, especially in fine dining. I used to see a lot of beer drank in fine dining. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you just don't see that anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like gone.
Yeah. You don't go into a nice restaurant and order a Miller Lite.
No, it's not even a Miller Lite. I mean, Yellow Rose is a great IPA, right? I've always supported it. It's local, Texas. It's really good hop schedule. You just don't see it being drank at the table anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it just our beer sales are so little comparatively.
Do you think the era of craft beer, little one-off places is on a decline?
In our restaurants, 100%. 100%. Do I think that it's gone forever? No, I think it's cyclical. Alcohol right now is in the forefront because of how creative you can be with it.
Yeah.
You are watching cocktails become chef-driven. You're watching you're watching mixologists come into the market and have a trade.
Mixologist. That's a dedicated thing.
It's like being a chef.
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting at your place last night, and the couple next to me had a cocktail that you had created. And you're not talking about, was it the bartender creating that, or was it a sommelier or somebody like who's focused on the alcohol?
Yeah.
You're talking about the executive chef going out and creating cocktails to complement the food.
See, I would never have guessed that in a million years.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of a guest we need to invite is a buddy of mine who just started his craft rum distillery, focusing on craft rum.
So you get more than just craft beer. Now you're getting small scale production of rum, scotch, whiskeys, all those kinds of things.
Well, let's talk about all the celebrities and ex-football players, and I mean, Peyton Manning has his own bourbon.
Ryan Reynolds has Aviation Gin.
I mean, everybody. Look at all the celebrities in the tequila business. I mean, liquor is exploding.
Yeah.
Well,
our sales show it. I'm almost doing, and this is crazy. Okay, we are almost doing the same amount of liquor sales as we are wine in a fine dining restaurant.
Whoa, that's huge.
Well, you think about George Clooney and Casamigos, right? It was tequila, and how big that's become. And it is. I don't know if it's has it become that way because of celebrity backing or whatever, but it is the forefront of everybody's mind right now.
Well, Sammy Hagar in recent interviews said quite clearly that he has made way more money with his tequila business than he made in 10 years as the lead singer of Van Halen. That's money, son.
It's big.
Yeah.
It's big.
More money in 10 years.
Liquor has exploded.
Liquor is big.
And I shouldn't say beer's not obsolete. That was the wrong word. It's just when we're talking about restaurant build-out costs.
We're gonna get some mail on that.
That's okay. That's
He apologized. He's gonna change his words.
I don't see it as an anti-beer thing. It's just an analysis of where the market is.
It's where the trend.
We
It's
were
where the
talking
trends are
about
going.
what it takes to open a restaurant. Like your beer cost is nothing compared to what you're going to spend in liquor and wine, because that's what's moving.
Right.
No, but I mean, you've got to build a business, i.e., you have to. You got
to make money.
Yeah, you got to make money. So you go where the money is.
We all love food, but in the end, it's a business.
And if that restaurant's not making money, they're not going to be open, especially
right.
if it has your favorite food. And I want to see the restaurants I like remain
Yeah.
successful.
Well, that's why we're doing this. So I want to talk a little bit about restaurants. I want to change gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about restaurants. So we're going to do this little section. We call it I'm just going to call it right now. These names are all going to change because we're going to evolve this thing, right? But I'm going to ask you 3 different questions, Austin, because I want to have a discussion about this. So the first of that, and I know you were thinking about it earlier, is what is your favorite restaurant right now?
Can it be one of his own?
Can it be what I crave the most? Because I crave Charm Thai Bistro the most.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I was there the other day. Congratulations to them, by the way, Adam and Wanaleed. They celebrated their 1-year anniversary the other day, having Charm Thai open. Yeah.
I crave, but Thai cuisine is my favorite cuisine, aside from really well executed French fundamental technique.
Where do you find French fundamental in Houston?
Does Lavour count?
No,
That's a bakery.
bakery.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about classic.
You got to hire Tris Woodlands to come to your house and curate tasting at your house. Could be a fundamental French, buddy.
Gotcha. That's a tough question, though, isn't it? French in Houston.
I mean, I'm more talking about, European style technique that was, documented by the French first, Scoffier, just proper fundamental cooking, sauce work, stock work, reduction, convection, all of these different things that are being lost in the industry that you don't see in cuisine. I mean, look, fundamentally at Tris, we love presentation. We do. But we don't try to make things look like caterpillars and taste like nothing. Okay, if it takes you 20 minutes to plate a dish, it's cold. And by the time it's cold, it does not react on your palate with taste sensation the same way when you build a dish with the proper sensation when it's hot. That's how we were taught to cook. If it's hot, it needs to be piping hot. If it's cold, it needs to be piping cold. I mean, think about pizza. You may love cold pizza. I like to dip it in ranch. But you're not going to taste the same pizza cold as hot.
Yeah,
That's reality.
Sure.
You and my wife love ranch on their pizza.
I don't like ranch on anything else. Not salad, not anything. Matter of fact, I don't like it on anything.
These are those weird things that chefs do.
Hey, that's just part of it.
Dip pizza in ranch.
I'm proud of it.
Dip pizza in ranch. So let's talk about that then. So what's your favorite dish right now? And where are you getting it?
I think my favorite dish right now, because what we try to do with food at Tris is make people appreciate something that they'd never eat before. I feel like making the lasting impression with the guest is when we can get a guest to eat something that they typically don't eat and think, oh my God, that's one of the greatest things we've ever ate. So at Tris right now, we've never served a Gulf oyster while I was being executive chef unless it was fried. We always served East Coast, West Coast, and we don't serve West Coast in Texas because it's illegal, but we serve
and nobody
East
likes
Coast.
Anything from the West Coast here.
No, that's not true. They think we're going to farm them in the Gulf. So we found these amazing oysters in Matagorda Bay, and since moving to Houston, I love to fish Matagorda Bay, and they're called Prestige, and we make a simple butter with wasabi and miso.
So good.
And then we roast those oysters with that butter. We put a little bit of scallion, cilantro, lime juice, and fried brioche on top. It was inspired by a dish that I saw in a collaboration with Bobby from State of Grace and La Lucha, which State of Grace is my favorite restaurant in Houston, by the way.
Oh, there you go.
And I love La Lucha, but State of Grace by far, service and food, is my favorite restaurant in Houston. I haven't been to all of them, so there's plenty I haven't been to. But I think what they do there, how they execute food, the vision. I think Bobby's an extremely gifted chef.
Yeah.
His pasta work is underappreciated. Like, we did a collaborate together, and his corn ravioli is still something everybody talks about.
Corn ravioli.
Yeah.
So, so our oyster dish. So people that don't like oysters, I went to a tasting the other night. We do curate at the house, by the way. We come to your house and do 8 courses. It's me and a cook and a server. We don't do it in the restaurant anymore.
All for the bargain price of $19.99 a person.
It's actually more than that. So.
Don't take my word for that. Don't take my word for that.
Fajita pizza may be a better option. Honestly,
hey, we got it. We'll do it.
So 3 people say we don't like oysters. We show up with a menu, and I said, I think you'll like these oysters. No, we don't really care. Well, okay, well, I served them anyways, and they all ate it. And they all ate it, and they're like, oh my God, this is one of the greatest things we've ever ate.
Yeah.
I love it when you can transform someone's perception of food that they don't particularly like because you understand how to execute it.
No, I agree. It's. I think it's one of the hardest things to do is to get people to step out of their comfort zones on food because they get the preconceived notion, like, oh, that meat is gross, or that seafood is gross, or I don't like that flavor. And it's not that one flavor. It's a function, I believe, of, like you said, presentation and preparation.
Yeah. Well, I'll attest to the fact that whenever I go into your place, I've told you many times, I'm not a big fish eater. I eat shellfish and I eat those oysters. You know me, I'll order them like by the 6 because they're so damn good. But I don't eat a lot of fish. But every time I say that to you, I always end up with a fish dish
Yeah, here comes
that I
the
always
fish.
end up liking.
Yeah, just because you probably said it is why you did it. 'cause
Exactly.
He wants to
Well, yeah.
transform your.
Just to piss me off. Yeah.
You gotta get out of your comfort.
So what do you? What? Last question. What do you think, ingredient wise? What's your favorite ingredient right now? Whether you're cooking with it or you're tasting it somewhere else.
That's a tough one. I think the one that I'm most excited about right now is we're really starting to mess with koji, which is fermented rice paste. It's umami. It is the definition of umami. 2 big trends right now, and we're in 19, and you're going to start seeing them more. Is the introduction of MSG in food and koji. A lot more fermented products are and globally going to start making its way into American food because of what it does to your taste sensation and your palate. Sour and bitter are your secret weapon as a chef. And if you could never understand how to utilize them, you will never have eye roll back in your head food, period. If you think sweet and spicy is how you're developing your flavors, that is rudimentary, and it is not where it's at.
Yeah.
That's bad Chinese food. Okay? So what everybody gives me a hard time because of my affinity for kimchi. And it's true.
There's a lot of it. You put a lot of it around.
I love kimchi everywhere, but we ferment our own kimchi.
No way.
We do it without any seafood product. There's no anchovy, no oyster, no fish product in it. It is just a clean, slightly spicy, lactic acid ferment vegetable. And that sourness that you get from that explodes the food.
That's kind of the point of it.
Correct. So, our kimchi crabs, our number one seller, it always will be because it tells a story. And it's also a modern take on a crab cake, which everybody wants. But that lactic acid allows you to taste the fermentation. It allows you to taste the spice. It allows you to taste the kimchi pancake, and then it slaps you in the face with crab in the end because of the sweetness of the crab and the sourness of the kimchi. Period. The best food in the world tells a story in your mouth.
Right.
If you can discern it.
If you can discern
And
it.
the chef knows what he's doing.
A lot of people can't discern that umami flavor.
Yep.
But miso is such a big thing. I mean, you said you were using it in the oysters. Hell, I was watching Great British Bake Off last night, and there's one contestant who she keeps using miso in sweet baked goods, and it's to give that other dimension of flavor. And I love it. I've not tried the koji that you're talking about, but I hope I will soon.
Wow, we're actually dry aging steak with it.
With miso.
So,
No, koji.
Koji. Okay.
So I'm not going to give the process out, but you guys can.
We'll
We'll do a little video on the process for those who want to know.
You guys will be able to try that pretty soon.
No, that's definitely worth a trip out for sure.
Yeah.
Forgive me again. 2 quick questions. Tris, what does that mean?
So Tris was Hubble and Hudson Bistro, and it was rebranded as Tris. Tris is my 4-year-old daughter.
Ah, okay.
The owner wanted the restaurant to be about me as a chef and the longevity. I've been there 11 years now with the company in the Woodlands. So wanted it to be around me as a chef to some degree, and it was important to me to be a little bit more about the family of the team, of the staff. I think the healthiest restaurants, the healthiest businesses, period, understand people, and they understand how to take care of people. And if your systems and your processes line up with your people being your first priority, not your customer. People are confused. It's your people first. And, if you listen to any, I follow a lot of Danny Meyer. I mean, I think he's God's gift to the restaurant business. I mean, it's just amazing that he's been able to be so successful with high end, and then he translates it into QSR and explodes Shake Shack. I mean, you have to look at that man and say, man, you are different. And that's what he says. It's
people makes the difference.
People first. It's your customer second. It's your community, and then your purveyors. And we wanted that to be, the restaurant was named after my daughter, which means family to me, but we also wanted people to understand that our team, Courtney Carter, Chris Perry, Janine Jones, all of our service staff, all of our cooks in the back, that was our management team. They are the most important people in that restaurant. Not me, not anybody else, not any of the customers. When you have a healthy team and happy people working, your product's going to sell itself. And I think that translates into any business.
Yeah.
So that's why we named it Tris. And, quickly outside of the bistro, it's been awesome for us.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much Anthony's wanting to get out of here or tie this up, but I mean, you said so many things that just, again, from a non-industry outsider, that really, like, I don't know, I've got to ask that question. Because I know it's unpacking a lot right now, but when you said there's a lot of things in the restaurant industry that are lost, that you are keeping alive in Tris, but what are some of those things?
Well, the best example I can give you is we as an industry have to learn to treat people better, and not the customer, the staff. It's a problem. When I learned to cook, I mean, John Teaser, I love you, but it was rough. I mean, we were expected to be perfect, and if it wasn't perfect, it wasn't just necessarily him. It's the industry as a whole, and the high end. It's militant. And, I don't even like to be called chef anymore, to be honest. Like, why do you need to call me chef?
Like doctor?
If I'm a painter and I do beautiful paintings, does my assistant say, yes, painter, yes, painter, yes, painter?
Right.
No, we don't need that. And chefs at the end of the day are leaders of people and process. But
like any business,
when you break it all down, they're cooks. So as an industry, we have to learn how to treat our people better. We have to have better pay, better hours, better schedule. So Tris was a restaurant, Hubble and Hudson Bistro, that operated 7 days a week, brunch on Saturday, Sunday, and we were open lunch, dinner every day. So when we opened Tris, we closed Sundays and Mondays. That was $675,000 worth of revenue.
I was just going to say those are big revenue days.
Big revenues.
Closed.
And I don't really share a lot of that information, but I'm going to tell you because this is what I mean about how you schedule your people. Me and Chris Perry, we spent a lot of time talking about how do we take care of our staff and how will that translate into taking care of our guests. Mm-hmm. So we close Sundays and Mondays. We open and we're giving our team off 2 stagnant days. And then in return, we have one team. We're a family. We come in and we operate the same days every day. We're not covering days off. So we have one team, one family, one unit. Wow. We go into our first year of operation. We blew sales out of the water. And we had growth. Our first year over our best years at Hubble and Hudson Bistro ever. And we were open, lunch, dinner, no brunch. Saturday, Sunday off, Tuesday through Saturday.
And whenever you go in there, it's always the same people. And that's an anomaly in the restaurant industry.
Very much so. I've never
same people in the kitchen, same people on the floor. It's nice.
Well, and the industry is one of the things that I think the vast majority of us outsiders, when we think of a high-end restaurant, in our mind, we've got the genius, temperamental chef throwing knives and plates at servers and support staff in the back for not being on sharp point. And it's portrayed like that in movies very often.
Yeah.
Truly, it can't be like that. Otherwise, the largest business sector in the world would not be in operation.
Well, that's the high end, and it's a little bit different. But to go back to your point about Tris, the pandemic, we reopened dinner only. First off, for a lot of reasons. The building wasn't fully occupied again. A lot of business didn't go back to work.
Right.
I always didn't like lunch at Tris, not because we didn't do a good lunch, but because I felt like it diluted our brand. Our lunch menu was very different than our dinner menu because we had to execute it within an hour, and people would flood the restaurant. We'd get one good push, and that was it. So we gave up another $450,000 in revenue, not reopening lunch.
Wow.
We have grown the sales over 2019 every month this year, all the way up to 44% on some weeks.
Just being open for dinner.
Just being open for dinner 25 hours a week. Me and Mr. Chris Perry went out on a whim on this deal as a team and said, hey, we're going to make this work. We're gonna service the table better than we've ever serviced it before. We're going to put out better food than we've ever serviced it before. We built a great team. Courtney LaCarter is the executive sous chef at Tris right now. She was a line cook for us 4 years ago. So she's killing it. We have a happy, healthy, excited staff. We do not have the labor shortages that everybody else is having right now. And in return, everybody's leaving the restaurant feeling like they had one of the best experiences in their life. And we're not, like Chris Perry would like to say, chasing pancakes. Yep. We're not worried about brunch on Sunday after we just got killed on Saturday. We're focusing the team, focusing on our efforts, and in return, we've made up all those lost sales and quite a bit more.
That's incredible.
So I would say not every restaurant's capable of that. Anthony could not close on Sundays and Mondays every week, being in quick service. We can't close Sundays and Mondays every week in our casual restaurants. It's not possible. It doesn't all translate that way. But what I will say to restaurant people is you can pull back to go forward if you take your team into consideration. And I don't know what that means for you in your box and what that means for you in your concept. But if you don't put yourself in your cooks, your front of the house staff, and your management shoes, and you don't really understand that, and it's for chefs. If you're creating food and you don't understand what it takes for that cook to put it out, happy cooks put out good food, just so you know.
Right.
So we really showed in that project that you can really take your team into consideration and build a great concept, and do it very different than it was done before.
Well, I mean, we got a lot more information than I thought we were going to get here, and it's fantastic. I love hearing your stories because I know we've known each other a long time. I know a lot of these stories, but they're always so cool to hear.
Well, for me as a business owner, it's interesting to me from the automotive world how parallel it is to the restaurants.
Yeah,
happy staff is a tough thing to pull. Qualified staff, all but impossible. And the staff I have now, I'm training myself. Yeah, because I've been through a lot of mechanics.
Which who knows how they're going to turn out.
Yeah, they can leave at any time.
So I want to cover one last thing, and this is funny. I'm going to read this little bit because this is kind of funny. So this is a questionnaire that we're going to do, and this is shamelessly ripped off from the classic Inside the Actor Studio, which was hosted by James Lipton. If you've never seen it,
which I've always loved, it's a brilliant show.
Go watch it. It's a one-on-one interview, and he does this questionnaire at the end of the interview, which was shamelessly ripped off from a French TV show called Apostrophes that was hosted by a man named Bernard Pivot, which not a lot of people know. He always says that on the show, that the questions kind of came from him. But that show had also ripped it off from this. It's called this Proust questionnaire, which was from Marcel Proust, who's a famous literary figure. So this is 8 questions off the top of your head, and I know this is hard for you, but this is a short answer kind of thing. Let's see.
Almost
Let's
like
see
a
how
lightning
it goes.
round.
We'll call this the lightning round. Okay, what is your favorite food?
That's tough. Whatever I created last.
Good answer.
Lobster pot pie. Lobster truffle pot pie.
I thought about that lobster pot pie and the truffle ravioli all night last night.
It was good.
Still thinking about it.
What is your least favorite food?
Gamey seafood. I don't like anchovy. I don't like sardines that are in cans. Nothing like that. Nothing that has a fishy, oily taste. I despise it, but I eat just about everything else.
What chef inspires you the most?
That's tough.
Presently, not in the past.
Oh man.
Try to make it easy.
So it's a hard question.
Yeah, it's a real hard question.
How many people?
I take such inspiration from so many chefs, but I still cook in the same sense that I was taught. I've still never veered from that fundamentally, and I still probably get the most inspiration from John, 100%.
He'll be glad to know that.
I mean, I think I've surpassed him in some levels, but not all, Chef.
Right, yeah.
But
yeah.
I definitely think that I think he's one of the greatest chefs in the world, hands down, just fundamentally. And I still take a lot of inspiration for what he puts out.
What sound or noise do you love?
Sound or noise? Stock bubbling.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Rock and roll.
Interesting. A lot of chefs would say a kitchen ticket printer.
I love that sound because that sound to me, and one of the reasons why we haven't gone to digital is because when you hear that ticket printer, you know it means business.
Yeah.
I mean, we like to play and
Means
have
money.
a good time, but when that ticket printer goes off,
Go time.
we know we got work to
Yeah.
do.
What's your favorite curse word?
Podcast. You can say it here.
You can say it here. Do we have to put an explicit tag on it?
I say fuck way too much. Way too much.
probably
I'm
my
working
choice
on
too.
it. I promise.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I'd love to be an electronic DJ. Like 100%.
I got to put you
In
in
a
touch.
previous life, and when it's I'd love to jam techno music in the restaurant, in the kitchen, like while we're cooking.
You're
I
the
mean,
second chef I know who's big into electronic music, so I got to put you in touch with Ben McPherson at BOH Pasta.
I know Ben very well.
Dude is always I think he's in Miami right now at like a bunch of
Some EDM
some
festival.
EDM festival.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
huge.
because
It's
Art
the biggest-
Basil's going on and there's a bunch of other stuff
It's the
going on. Yeah.
biggest. It's the biggest.
Yeah. And then the last
Brandon
one.
Silva, huge EDM
Yeah?
fan. I mean, just
Maybe it's a chef kitchen thing. And then last one.
it's
What,
happy music.
what would be in your last meal?
You're going to be dead within the hour. Your last meal. Choose it.
And you don't have to cook it.
So, I honestly think my last thing that I would want to eat would be a lobster ravioli, but made the way we were classically trained to make it, with lots of big lobster filling in the butter inside the ravioli, with a proper reduction lobster gloss beurre monte, which Tizar taught me, roasting the bones, not sautéing them and making them taste gamey. And then, butter poached king crab on top with maybe wasabi tobiko or
Wow.
not, just depending on what kind of mood I'm in. But that and a white burgundy would be the last meal for me.
Is that available at Tris?
I mean, if you hire me to come to your house, it's available.
All right.
I think we might want to get his number and sign that up.
We're
Yeah.
going to talk.
Yeah, the lobster pot pie's similar, but not the same.
Yeah.
I think that would be my last
Yeah.
meal. I mean, I'm a big steak and potato guy. One thing that we didn't talk about on this podcast, we have our own meat program at Tris. And we
Yeah,
serve
we
that.
kind of we were going to talk a little bit about meat industry. We got off on some other stuff, but I think we got other podcasts. We're going to talk about it.
We could spend an entire podcast just on the meat industry.
Yeah.
We've put a lot of effort into being able to have our own genetics.
Yeah.
And we serve that burger throughout all of our concepts. Black Walnut, the kitchen.
Oh.
So Goulet is our beef program. We've helped bring it to market, and it's 100% crossed Black Wagyu to French Charlet. And we're really
It's
one of
darn
the
good.
only ranches doing that.
darn
There's
good.
no commodity in the schedule, and we think it's going to be very special. It already is.
I cooked one of the briskets the other day. It was
Exciting.
fantastic.
Oh.
It was fantastic. Austin, thanks for coming on with us for this kind of inaugural podcast. I think we might have you back again.
There's a lot.
There's a lot we can talk about here.
I mean, gosh, if I and this is just off the top of my head, if I'd bothered keeping notes this whole time, I'd have 5 pages of
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Thank you, guys.
So
I'm happy to be here.
This is our first time doing this, Frank. I think we're kicking it off. We're going to do this hopefully on a weekly basis, and we'll have a whole bunch of different guests. I've got a few folks interested. So, restaurant real estate, social media aspects of food, of restaurants, of the industry, supply chain. And a lot. We want to keep having this conversation about everything that is the restaurants, but everything that is also everything around
Like
the restaurants.
a meat guy, seafood guy,
Yeah.
liquor, very soon. I mean, there's,
Well,
there's
you
no
know, and
limit to
real estate.
topics.
Real estate's a huge issue
Yeah.
right now. Where is it? How? If you've got to be intensely capitalized, where are you finding your bang for the buck? So, thanks, Frank, for coming in. Also, thanks for sponsoring. Also, thanks to Fajita Pete's for sponsoring as well. We did that. Come try us. We'll do something a little less fancy than Austin will, but go see Austin at Tris
Oh, yeah.
or the Kitchen on Research. So that's the QSR quick serve restaurant. Do you call that one? Is it a QSR?
It is, but
It's a little more than that.
It's fast casual. I mean,
Yeah.
we're delivering food to the table in both concepts
Yeah.
now. Black Walnut, it's not to be missed. We're
Black Walnut with how many locations? Like 18, 19 now?
yeah.
Cross-
Well, no.
cro-
There's 10. There's 10.
10 in Houston.
10 in the company.
Oh, 10 in the company. Sorry, I thought it was more than that. But not just in Houston, right? I mean,
So we have Houston, Dallas.
yeah.
now. And so there's a new president. His name's Michael Johnson. He comes from Whiskey Cake, cut his teeth in Carrabba's early part of his career.
Whiskey Cake, a place I haven't been yet.
Ooh.
And there's a new one in the Woodlands. So
Yeah, there is.
I have not been there yet.
It's a good concept. It's a good concept for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. Very farm to table, as I understand.
Yeah, you should check it out.
Yeah.
Anyways, he's with us now, and we're doing a lot of work on food, beverage, and overall concept at Black Walnut. I think we have some amazing things in store. He brings a lot of experience, and we're going to evolve that concept 100%.
I love the wings.
Yeah.
Is it the Thai?
Yeah, there's a
Thai
lot of new
wings?
food there, though,
Yeah.
man. You should really check it out.
Yeah.
And don't forget Black Walnut for dinner. I mean, we're put a lot of effort into making it more
That's right, lunch and dinner. Yeah.
dinner driven.
Yeah.
They've always been known for breakfast and brunch. In the kitchen, if you haven't been there and researched for us in Gosling, it's my version or our version of a fast casual tryst, if you will.
Yeah.
The food's well executed.
I go there regularly.
Thank you.
Yeah, the burgers are fantastic.
Great wine program.
In fact, I still miss your biscuits and gravy croissant there.
Oh yeah,
So you can get that at Black Walnut now.
there you go.
So you
Out of here.
don't have to worry about it.
There you go.
It's at Black Walnut.
That's awesome.
So
That's awesome. Well, Austin, thanks for coming in. Frank, thanks for being here
Thank
as
you.
well. So we'll wrap it up. This is our first inaugural Subtle Foodie podcast, but we'll see you guys later. Thanks.
thank you guys.